This is absolutely mental. Look at the drop.
Somewhere in China's far west lies a dead lake where two famous explorers walked in and were never seen again. No birds fly over it, no water remains, and it's only the beginning. From a desert called the Sea of Death, to a village swallowed whole by vines, to a gorge so deep the sky becomes a thin ribbon of light. These are 15 places in China you'd never make it out of alone. 15. The Hulunbuir grasslands, Inner Mongolia. We begin not with a cliff or a desert, but with something far gentler and far more deceiving. The Hulunbuir grasslands stretch across the far north of Inner Mongolia, an ocean of green so vast it bends with the curve of the earth. From a distance, it looks like paradise. Wildflowers, birch forests, slow rivers, and a sky that seems to go on forever. People come here to breathe, to remember what open space feels like. But step away from your guide, your vehicle, or the small city of Haila, and the grassland reveals its quiet trick. There are no roads here, no fences, no signposts. Every direction looks exactly like the last. The same gentle hills, the same waving grass, the same unbroken horizon in all four directions. Within an hour of walking, the landmark you trusted is gone, and you realize there was never a landmark at all. Herders have crossed these plains for centuries, but they read the land the way sailors read the sea. Through subtle signs most visitors never learn. Without that knowledge, the grassland becomes a beautiful maze with no walls and no exit. The temperature drops sharply at night. Phone signal thins to nothing, and rescue in a place with no roads to drive in on is a slow and uncertain thing. That's why Hulunbuir opens our list. Not because it looks dangerous, but because it doesn't. It teaches the first and most important lesson of this journey. In the most isolated corners of China, the thing that ends you is rarely violent. It's distance, it's silence, it's the simple, patient fact that no one knows where you are. 14. The Snowtown backcountry, Heilongjiang. Far in China's frozen northeast, near the border with Siberia, sits a place locals call China Snowtown. For 7 months of the year, snow falls almost without pause, burying the wooden houses until their roofs wear thick white caps that glow under the lanterns. The village itself is warm and welcoming, a postcard of red lights and rising steam. It is one of the most photographed winter scenes in the country, but the village is a small island of warmth in a sea of forest. And that forest does not forgive wandering. Step beyond the last guest house, past the reach of the lanterns, and the temperature can plunge far below freezing. The snow here is deep. Deep enough to swallow a leg, then a waist, then more. What looks like solid ground is often a hollow drift over buried branches and ditches. In conditions like these, the cold doesn't wait. Exposed skin loses feeling in minutes. Tracks fill in behind you almost as fast as you make them, so the path you came by quietly erases itself. The pines all look identical under their white weight, and in the short winter daylight, dusk arrives early and without warning. People who live here respect the forest's edge the way you'd respect the edge of a frozen lake. They know that the line between a beautiful walk and a deadly one is a single wrong turn into the trees. Snowtown earns its place on this list because its danger wears the disguise of a holiday. The beauty is real. So is the cold that waits just past the light. 13. The abandoned Hakka Tulu villages, Guangdong. In the green hills of southern China stand some of the most extraordinary homes ever built. The Tulu great circular fortresses of packed earth and timber raised by the Hakka people over centuries. Some are the size of small castles, ringed by walls, feet thick, designed to shelter entire clans behind a single guarded door. For generations, they were full of life, smoke, and voices echoing in the round. Then, within a single generation, many emptied. As young people left for the booming cities of the Pearl River Delta, whole Tulu was simply abandoned, too remote to modernize, too solid to tear down. Today, some of these giants stand silent in the hills, their ancestral halls open to the sky, their inner courtyards overrun with subtropical vines. To step inside an abandoned Tulu alone is to enter a structure that is slowly, quietly failing. The earthen walls that stood for hundreds of years are softening with rain. Wooden galleries that once ringed the courtyard sag and rot, and the upper floors can give way underfoot without warning. There is no railing, no lighting, no one watching. A floor that held a family for a century may not hold a single visitor. And these places are far from the main roads, hidden down overgrown tracks that few outsiders know. A fall here isn't just a fall. It's a fall where no one is coming in a building the forest is already reclaiming. The Tulu were built to keep danger out. Abandoned and alone, they have quietly become the danger themselves. 12. Hutuwan, the green ghost village, Zhejiang. Off the eastern coast of China, on a remote island in the East China Sea, lies a village that looks like something from a dream. Hutuwan was once a thriving fishing community of more than 2,000 people, its stone houses climbing a steep cliffside above the harbor. Then, as the fish and the young people drifted away, it was abandoned, and nature moved in. Today, every house is wrapped in a thick blanket of climbing vine. Roofs, walls, windows, doorways, all swallowed beneath a rolling green tide, so complete that from a distance the village looks like a single living hillside. It has been called the most beautiful abandoned village in the world, and standing above it, you understand why. It is breathtaking. It is also a trap dressed as a postcard. The village clings to a steep slope above the sea, and the vines hide what the slope is doing. Beneath that beautiful green lies crumbling stone, open stairwells, and sudden drops that the foliage erases from view. A path that looks solid, maybe a thin crust of growth over a collapsed floor, or a sheer fall to the rocks below. Officials have warned visitors for years to stay out of the empty houses because the structures inside are decaying and unstable. On the island's far cliffs, away from the small viewing platforms, you are genuinely alone. Wind, sea, and a green silence that has buried an entire town. Hutuwan is proof that some of the most dangerous places on Earth are also the most beautiful, and that the two are not opposites. Sometimes they are the very same thing. 11. The Forbidden Trails of Laojun Mountain, Henan. Rising from the heart of Henan province, Laojun Mountain is a place of pilgrimage and legend, named for an ancient sage said to have found enlightenment on its peaks. Its summits pierce the clouds, its temples cling to impossible ledges, and golden shrines glow on ridges that seem to float above the world. It is sacred, it is stunning, and parts of it were never meant to be walked. Beyond the maintained paths and cable cars lie the old forbidden trails, narrow stone stairways carved straight into vertical rock, worn smooth by weather and time. Some climb so steeply they feel less like steps and more like a ladder hung over open air. On one side, the mountain. On the other, nothing but cloud and a fall too far to survive. These trails were cut by people of deep faith, who treated each step as part of a sacred climb. But for a visitor who strays onto them alone, faith offers no handhold. The stone can be slick with mist. The drop is sheer and unforgiving. And up here, weather changes in minutes. Clear sky to blinding fog, so thick you can lose the trail 2 steps ahead and not know whether the next stone is solid ground or the edge. A single slip on Laojun Mountain doesn't end in a stumble. It ends in silence and a long way down. The mountain has been climbed by pilgrims for over 1,000 years, but it has always demanded respect, sure feet, and company. Alone on its forbidden stairs, in the wrong cloud, even the devoted have learned that the mountain keeps what it takes. 10. The plank walk of Mount Hua, Shanxi. Some places earn a frightening reputation honestly. Mount Hua in Shanxi province is one of the 5 sacred mountains of China, and it is widely called the most dangerous hike in the world. Its 5 peaks rise in sheer granite walls, and for centuries pilgrims have climbed it to reach the Taoist temples at its summit. But it is one stretch of that climb that has made it infamous. High on the south peak, the path becomes a line of narrow wooden planks bolted directly onto the vertical face of the cliff, a few boards wide, a single iron chain to grip, and below your heels, a drop of thousands of feet straight down to the valley floor. This is the famous plank walk, and crossing it means trusting old wood, old bolts, and your own nerve over an abyss. Today, harnesses are available and many who cross clip in. But the planks are narrow. Two-way traffic forces people to edge past one another over open air, and a moment of panic in the wrong place leaves no room to recover. Mist can roll in and turn the wood slick. The wind tugs at you in the open, and the human body, faced with that much empty space below, does not always obey. Mount Hua makes this list because it strips danger down to its purest form. A few boards between you and the sky. People have died here, and the mountain has never pretended otherwise. To stand on those planks alone, with the valley a silent green floor far beneath your feet, is to understand exactly how little stands between a step and a fall. 9. The high valley fringe of Larongga, Sichuan. In a remote valley high in the mountains of western Sichuan lies one of the most astonishing sights in all of China. Larongga, a sea of tiny red houses spilling down the slopes, home to thousands of Tibetan Buddhist monks and nuns. The valley hums with quiet devotion, robes the color of embers against the grey-brown earth. It sits at well over 3,000 meters above sea level, where the air is already thin. The settlement itself is a place of warmth and community, but the danger here isn't in the valley, it's in what surrounds it. Step beyond the houses, up onto the high ridges and empty slopes that ring Larongga, and you enter a world where the altitude itself becomes the threat. At these heights, the air holds far less oxygen than your body expects. Altitude sickness doesn't announce itself politely. It begins as a headache, a strange breathlessness, a dizziness you might blame on the climb. But it can escalate fast, clouding judgment and draining strength precisely when you need both most. Alone on a high slope, disoriented and slowing down, a person can sit to rest and simply not have the clarity or the strength to rise again. The cold at this elevation is relentless once the sun drops, and the distances between any two people are enormous. Larongga earns its place not for the community at its heart, but for the thin, indifferent air on its edges, a reminder that in the high country of Tibet and Western China, the sky itself can be the thing that quietly takes you. 8. Daliabuyi, the village in the sand, Xinjiang. Deep inside the Taklamakan Desert in Xinjiang, hundreds of kilometers from the nearest town, sits a village that for centuries the outside world did not even know existed. Daliabuyi is built along a thin ribbon of river that drains down from the distant Kunlun mountains and simply dies in the sand. The village sits at that dying end, a lone island of life, in the heart of one of the most hostile deserts on Earth. For generations, the people here lived almost entirely cut off, their origins a genuine mystery even to historians. Some believe their ancestors fled here to escape war, choosing isolation so complete that no road led in or out. They survived on the thin green strip the river allowed, surrounded on every side by an ocean of dunes that swallows sound, direction, and time. To stand here is to grasp just how alone a human being can be. In every direction lies desert that has killed travelers for thousands of years. No water, no shade, no landmark, temperatures that soar by day and plunge at night. The village is reachable now, but barely, and the desert around it has lost none of its menace. Wander out from the green, and the sand offers nothing back. Dalia Bui exists because a handful of people learned to live at the very edge of what is survivable, and stayed there. But that same isolation that protected them for centuries is exactly what makes the land around them so lethal to anyone alone and unprepared. Here, the nearest help isn't minutes or hours away, it's a desert away, and the desert does not hurry to let you cross. 7. The glacier zones of Hailuogu and Gaze, Sichuan. In the wild mountains of the Gaze region of western Sichuan, glaciers pour down from the peaks in rivers of ancient ice. Places like Hailuogu are achingly beautiful. Walls of blue-white ice, frozen waterfalls, and a stillness so complete that visitors often say they feel like the only living person who has ever stood there. That feeling of being utterly alone is part of the wonder. It is also the warning. A glacier is not solid ground. It is a slow-moving mass riddled with crevasses, deep, narrow cracks that can plunge dozens of meters into the ice. Many are hidden beneath thin bridges of snow that look exactly like the safe ground around them. Step on the wrong patch, and the snow gives way, dropping you into a freezing blue throat from which there is almost no climbing out. The ice is always shifting, always groaning, opening new cracks and closing others. Weather in these high valleys turns without warning, sun to whiteout in minutes, and the cold inside a crevasse can take a stranded person quickly. Out here, far from any town, that sense of being the only soul for miles stops being peaceful and becomes the whole problem. There is no one to hear a call for help. The glaciers of Gaze make this list because their danger is invisible until the instant it isn't. They are pristine, silent, and breathtaking, and they hide their crevasses beneath a perfect skin of snow. To walk them alone is to gamble that every step lands on ice and not on air. The mountains here keep their secrets cold, and they keep them deep. 6. The Yarlung Changpo Grand Canyon, Tibet. In the far southeast of Tibet, the Yarlung Changpo River carves the deepest canyon on the face of the earth. In places, its walls plunge more than 5,000 meters from rim to river, deeper than any gorge on the planet, deep enough that the bottom holds a different climate from the top. Mist hangs in its folds. The river thunders far below, a silver thread glimpsed between sheer green cliffs. It is a place of staggering, almost unreal beauty, and it is one of the least accessible regions in all of China. The canyon is so steep, so wild, and so choked with dense forest that much of it has never been fully explored. The terrain swallows trails. Landslides are common. The river itself is a churning monster of whitewater that has defeated some of the most experienced expeditions ever to attempt it. For anyone alone in this gorge, the depth itself is the danger. The walls are too sheer to climb, the forest too thick to cross quickly, and the few paths cling to slopes where a slip means a fall toward the river far below. Help cannot reach you easily because the same depth that makes the canyon a wonder makes it a near-perfect trap. Rescue here is not a phone call. It is days, if it comes at all. The Yarlung Changpo Grand Canyon is the kind of place that humbles. It is too deep, too remote, too powerful to forgive a mistake. To stand on its edge is to feel how small a person is against geology on this scale. And to descend into it alone is to step into one of the few places left on Earth where the world can simply close over you and leave no trace. 5. Ngari, the roof of the world, Tibet. If Tibet is called the roof of the world, then Ngari in its far west is the roof of the roof. It is the most remote corner of an already remote land. A high plateau so vast and so empty that you can drive for hours and see no other human being. This is the home of sacred Mount Kailash and shimmering holy lakes, but it is also one of the emptiest inhabited places on the entire planet. The numbers alone tell the story. Some counties here are the least populated in all of China, with a handful of people scattered across territory the size of a small country. The land sits at staggering altitude, where the air is desperately thin and the body struggles simply to function. Travelers are required to spend many days just letting their bodies adjust because the height alone can be deadly. Out here, the distances are merciless. The roads are slow and few, and between them lies nothing but high desert, wind, and sky. A breakdown, a wrong turn, or a sudden bout of altitude sickness leaves a person stranded in a place where the next human being might be a full day's travel away. The cold at night is brutal, and the emptiness is total. Ngari makes this list because it is, quite simply, one of the loneliest places a person can stand. Its beauty is otherworldly, endless plateau under an enormous sky, snow peaks floating on the horizon. But that same scale that makes it sacred makes it lethal to anyone alone. In Ngari, you are not just far from help, you are far from everything. 4. Motuo County, Tibet. Hidden in the eastern Himalayas of Tibet lies a county that, for most of modern history, no road could reach. Motuo was so cut off from the world that for decades it remained one of the very last places in China with no reliable route in. Surrounded by towering mountains and cloaked in dense, dripping forest, it was reachable only on foot, by those willing to risk the journey. And the journey is the danger. To reach Motuo on foot, travelers crossed high frozen passes through the Himalayas, then descended into a humid jungle of leeches, rivers, and rotting trails. The land here is violently unstable. Mudslides and avalanches tear away whatever paths are built again and again, which is exactly why a dependable road was so long in coming. The mountains simply will not hold one for long. A person attempting this route alone faces a gauntlet that has tested even seasoned trekkers. Narrow trails hang above roaring gorges. Rope and suspension bridges sway over rivers swollen with meltwater. A single landslide can erase the path ahead and the path behind in the same afternoon, sealing a traveler between two walls of moving earth with no way forward and no way back. Motuo earns its place near the top of this list because its isolation was, for generations, almost absolute. Even today, the way in is treacherous, and the wilderness around it is some of the most unforgiving in Asia. To travel here alone is to put yourself at the mercy of mountains that routinely swallow the very roads built to tame them. In Motuo, the land itself decides who passes. 3. The heart of the Taklamakan, Xinjiang. We have reached the desert whose very name is a warning. The Taklamakan in Xinjiang is the second largest shifting sand desert on Earth, a sea of dunes the size of a country. Its name is often linked to words meaning to abandon, to leave behind, the place you go and do not return from. For thousands of years, it has been known by another title earned in blood: the Sea of Death. The ancient Silk Road, which carried caravans across half the world, refused to cross its center. Instead, the trade routes hugged the edges, stringing together oasis towns around the rim because the interior was simply too deadly to enter. Travelers and merchants understood, long before modern maps, that the heart of the Taklamakan was not a route. It was a grave. The reasons are merciless, and they stack on top of one another. There is almost no water. Rivers run down from the mountains and vanish into the sand before they ever cross it. The dunes tower hundreds of feet high and shift constantly, erasing tracks and landmarks. Summer heat is punishing, the nights swing bitterly cold, and sandstorms can rise without warning and blot out the entire sky. It is said that in parts of this desert, you will not see a single bird. To walk into the center of the Taklamakan alone is to enter a place that has been killing the unprepared for millennia. Modern highways now cross it in two places, thin ribbons of road through the void, but step off them into the dunes and the ancient rules return at once. No water, no shade, no direction. The Sea of Death does not need to do anything to you. It simply has to let the distance and the sun do their work. 2. The crater rim of Changbai Mountain, Jilin. On the border between China and North Korea rises Changbai Mountain, and cradled in its summit is one of the most extraordinary and unsettling sights in all of Asia. Heaven Lake, a crater lake of impossibly deep blue water filling the mouth of a sleeping volcano. Ringed by 16 jagged peaks, it sits more than 2,000 meters up, and it is breathtaking. It is also volatile in ways that catch people off guard. The weather on Changbai's summit is famously, dangerously unpredictable. A clear sky can vanish into dense fog in a matter of minutes, swallowing the crater rim and the narrow paths that ring it. The lake itself is enormous and astonishingly deep, hundreds of meters down in places. Its cold, blue surface giving no hint of the drop beneath. Its waters are frigid year-round, cold enough to steal the strength from a body within minutes. The rim around the lake is steep and loose, a knife edge of volcanic rock and scree. In sudden fog, a person can lose the path entirely, and a slip on the wrong slope sends them sliding toward the freezing water or down the mountain's outer flanks. This is a sleeping volcano in an isolated frontier region where mist, cold, and sheer terrain combine into a place that punishes a single misstep. Changbai Mountain sits at number 2 because it hides its danger behind one of the most beautiful views on Earth. People come to gaze at Heaven Lake and forget that they are standing on the rim of a volcano in weather that can blind them without warning, above water cold enough to be lethal. To stand here alone when the fog rolls in is to understand how quickly wonder can turn into the most dangerous kind of lost. 1. Lop Nur, the Forbidden Dead Lake, Xinjiang. And so, we arrive at the place where we began. In the far east of Xinjiang, swallowed by the deserts that surround it, lies Lop Nur. Once the second largest saltwater lake in China, now a dead and cracked wasteland of salt that stretches to every horizon. The water vanished long ago. What remains is a barren plain so hostile that it has earned a fearsome reputation as one of the most forbidden places in the entire country. Lop Nur is a landscape that seems designed to end life. There is no water, there is no shade. In summer, the ground temperature is said to climb to scorching extremes, and across vast stretches of it, you will not see a single bird in the sky, for there is nothing here for anything to live on. It is a place of absolute silence, where the only thing that moves is the wind dragging dust across the salt. And it has taken people. In 1980, a renowned Chinese scientist vanished here while on a scientific expedition, walking out to search for water and never returning, despite one of the largest searches the region had ever seen. Years later, in 1996, a famous explorer attempting to cross this wasteland alone also died within its emptiness. These are not legends. They are documented disappearances that have given Lop Nur its chilling name among those who know it. A place you do not enter alone. There is more that deepens the dread. For decades, parts of this region were sealed off entirely as one of the most restricted zones in China, its secrets closed to the outside world. Between the ancient ruins buried in its salt, the explorers it has swallowed, and the silence that hangs over all of it, Lop Nur has become something close to a legend of death, a dried lake at the end of the world that gives nothing back. To stand at the heart of Lop Nur alone would be to stand in one of the loneliest places a human being can reach. No water, no life, no sound, and no certainty of ever finding the way out again. It is the truest answer to the question this list has asked from the very first frame. Of all the places in China you would never make it out of alone, this dead and forbidden lake is the one that has proven it again and again. 15 places scattered across deserts, mountains, glaciers, and dead lakes, and not one of them needs violence to be deadly. They kill with distance, with silence, with the simple, patient fact that no one is coming. That is the strange thread that ties them together. These are not monsters, they are places of staggering beauty, and that beauty is exactly what draws people too far in. The line between exploring the unknown and disappearing into it is thinner than we like to believe. If this journey to China's most isolated corners stayed with you, subscribe to China Estate, and we'll keep guiding you, respectfully and from a safe distance, to the forbidden, hidden, and unforgettable places most travelers will never see. Until next time, wander from afar and never wander alone.